Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again. So today, we're going to talk about Trump, Ukraine, borders, agreements, and ceasefires. So Zelensky and Trump met today, along with a list of European leaders, to discuss Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The meeting comes on the heels of Trump meeting with Putin, and frankly, being convinced to surrender Ukraine and U.S. credibility in Europe to Putin. At time of recording, not much has changed. Trump is still pushing Ukraine to surrender territory, is still obeying Putin's demand to not allow Ukraine to join NATO, and saying that a ceasefire isn't needed for negotiations to take place. Ukraine and European allies are being polite and diplomatic, but there are significant problems with Trump's positioning. Accepting a bar against NATO membership just means that Russia will invade Ukraine again later. It could be 5 months from a peace, or it could be a decade. But Russia will attack Ukraine again and attempt to absorb it. Putin seems to have duped Trump into believing he wants peace. Speaking of the fighting, Trump said, quote, "I know the president. I know myself. And I believe Vladimir Putin wants to see it end." Reminder, Putin started the war and could end it at any time. He wants Ukraine to surrender and the U.S. to be weakened and humiliated, while he positions for his next attack on either what's left of Ukraine after a peace deal or against another country in Europe. British Prime Minister Starmer seemed to be alluding to the reality that Trump doesn't want to accept when the Prime Minister said, quote, "When we talk about security, we're talking about the security not just of Ukraine. We're talking about the security of Europe and the United Kingdom as well." The President of Finland also mentioned the possibility of being next. Quote, "Some of the international media might wonder, why is the President of Finland here? I think the reason is probably that we might come from a small country, but we have a long border with Russia, over 800 miles. From the reports we've seen, it looks like European allies are there to focus on specific parts of the problem, to keep it very simple for Trump. The European leaders also push strongly for Trump to realize a ceasefire is necessary. The German chancellor pushed that by saying, quote, "I can't imagine that the next meeting would take place without a ceasefire. So let's work on that, and let's try to put pressure on Russia. Because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today are depending on at least a ceasefire from the beginning of the series of negotiations, from next step on. So I would like to emphasize this aspect and would like to see a ceasefire from the next meeting, which should be a trilateral meeting wherever it takes place." Trump is getting his ego stroked diplomatically, but he's being treated like a child by European allies and as a stooge by Putin. Trump says he'll call Putin next. At this point, it looks like all of these meetings, all of this claimed progress, was just a show. Maybe the pressure leads to a lasting peace, but at this point, it looks mostly like any peace to come of this will be short-lived. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.